Hey everybody, welcome back to the Plays and Fades YouTube channel. I'm your host, Gordon Gambles, and welcome back to another full card breakdown. This time for UFC 297, we have ourselves a pay-per-view, and one that I am very, very excited for a few reasons. Number one, we're back in Ontario. First time back in Ontario since 2019, and then the first time back since 2018 in Toronto itself. And not only that, but I am very honored and pumped to be able to go there myself. So I'll be heading back home to Toronto to watch the card and cheer on my Canadian fellow fighters, and one that I'm very, very excited for a few reasons. Not only do we have all this Canadian talent on there, but you have an incredible main event, an incredible atmosphere, and I am absolutely pumped for these fights. If you are also going to be in attendance, let me know. Hit me in the comments down below, but I'm happy to meet up anybody there. I'm just going to be excited for a good night of fights, but one where, because of this, I've done my due diligence. I've gone out there, done all my research. I have a few bets already locked in on this card from months ago because I was so excited that I was going to be there. I love this card. I love a few of these fights, and I do think we have some decent spots to take advantage of from both a betting and a DFS perspective. As always, we break down every single card, starting from the early prelims, ending with the main event from both a betting and a DFS perspective. All should be timestamped down below. If you want more of an in-depth breakdown, check me out at DailyFanMMA, where I do some premium content there. Hit the like button down below, subscribe to the channel. Without further ado, let's do this. We get the night started with the 16-7 Jimmy Flick versus the 14-7 Malcolm Gordon. A banger, a flyweight clash of titans to get this card started, and one that's going to be entertaining, to say the least. Let's put it that way. Jimmy Flick is a guy who, top of the world, flying triangles all over the place, then retired for 3 years. He then unretired, and since then has not looked like the same version of himself. He looks like he's been showing up for a check and has fallen in his last two fights because of that. Simply put, he's a good hammer, not a very good nail. He has incredible submission upside, one of the best submission grapplers we've seen in this division. After that first round, if he doesn't get that early finish, tends to fade down the stretch. Is super hittable on the feet, gives up. Cardio's not necessarily there at all. He does have flaws in his own right, but don't get it wrong, he's extremely dangerous on the mat in that very first round. Gore, on the other side of things, is someone who I think has a decent overall skill set. He has some decent striking. He has a black belt on the ground. I think he has some good offensive and defensive wrestling. The problem for him has been that durability. He can be hit. His chin is necessarily not there all too often. Not only his chin, but he also was finished to the body last time, all that stuff. He is not the most durable fighter, and although I think he may be the more well-rounded fighter in this matchup, his chin's not necessarily there. Now, does he have to worry about that against Flick, a guy who has 16 wins but 0 KOs? Probably not. For that reason, it makes it for a very interesting matchup. The question then becomes, where is Flick at this point of his career? He came back unretired and has looked awful since, and if it comes down to the version we've seen of Flick who fought Costa and Johnson, I'm taking Gordon all day, because Flick looked like he showed up for a paycheck. He didn't get that submission that first round, and he faded. Struggles a ton on the feet. Cardio's not necessarily there, and his mentality not necessarily there. So he's going in to the hometown, the barn of Malcolm Gordon, who is going to have the Canadian crowd behind him. And without much knockout upside, I think that Gordon wins this fight more often than the line entails. Gordon's the better striker on the feet. I think has a better cardio of the two, better resiliency, and although he is competent on the ground, I think should be able to keep this fight standing, shall he decide to do so, and be able to win this fight the later it goes. Now, is there a world where Flick gets an early submission? 100%. We saw Gordon go out there and be submitted a couple times in the UFC, but he's losing to Amir Albazi, Muhammad Mokaev, Jake Hadley. Like, he's facing some really good fighters here, and I do think this may be a step down in overall competition in that regard. I think I'd line Gordon more around 200 minus 220 here. And I did take a 1-unit shot on him. Again, not very trustworthy. Like, the guy's not the most trustworthy fighter in the world, but I do think he has advantage in this spot here, hometown crowd behind him, and I do think he wins this matchup. However, on DraftKings, it's an interesting one, because like I said, I'm not saying Gordon's a lock. Gordon can go out there and he can be finished, but that leaves the path to victory for Flick, although minuscule, a high-scoring option. 7.9K, his one win in the UFC, he scored 92.6. That's kind of a similar thing he's going to have here. It's first-round sub or bust, in my opinion, for Flick, and that allows him to have some pretty high upside as an underdog at 7.9K. Flip side, Gordon, 8.3. In his couple wins so far, he has scored okay. 102 against Bondar, 80 against Figueiredo. I do for sure see a finish on the table here, especially the way that Flick's been finished recently. He's allowed his opponents to be on the optimal lineup, and I do think that Gordon has the potential to go out there and score very well against a fighter who may quit. So this fighter is what I'm looking to target. Betting-wise, I think the line should be wider towards Gordon, who has more paths to get it done. However, the upside of a first-round finish may lie with Jimmy Flick. An overall really fun fight, but I'm taking the Canadian in the first one. There are Canadians in 9 of the 12 fights, and including another one here, the 9-3 Jasudavicius versus the 12-5 Priscilla Cachoeira. A fun scrap. You have the Canadian here in Jasudavicius, who last time she was in Canada absolutely steamrolled Miranda Maverick, and she was able to gain a little bit of popularity from that regard. And she takes on an opponent to which she has a favorable matchup here against Priscilla Cachoeira. Cachoeira, 12-5, a very, very powerful striker, has 3 KO wins in the UFC for a WMMA fighter. That's pretty good. So she does have power. She is a primary striker, but this is the widest line on the market, and one where you have to think they're trying to set up these Canadian fighters with hype to have some success. And that's mainly built because although Cachoeira is a very powerful striker on the feet, her ground game's not there. Taken down 3 times in sub by Miranda Maverick, taken down in sub by Jillian Robertson, taken down in sub by Valentina Shevchenko, taken down by Molly McCann, taken down 4 times by Gina Mazzani. She has been taken down. She's been exploded on the mat. And what she has in front of her is a silver medalist Canadian wrestler here in Jasudavicius, who is a very strong, powerful, large girl for this weight class, who should be able to take her down and dominate from that top position. On the feet, I may give the edge to Cachoeira. She has shown a lot of power, but it's not like Jasmine isn't a competent striker as well. Very long punches, doesn't have the same power that Priscilla does, but should be able to win minutes. Either way, though, the bread and butter's on the ground, and I do think that Jasmine takes it there and has some success. Now, I may look towards playing Jasmine here because I do think she has a favorable matchup that is prime for her to succeed in her home country. But it is the widest line in the card, and I have to figure out if I want to play Jasmine on DraftKings. Historically, has not been a fighter who is worthy of a 9.5K salary. I mean, her highest score was 105 against Fernandez, where she did land 4 takedowns, but she has never got a finish inside the UFC. This is one where I think she may be able to get a finish against someone in Cachoeira who has been finished on the mat a few times. But does she go out there and outscore a Mike Malott, a Charles Jourdain, or anybody out in that mid-range? I'm yet to figure that out. I think Jasmine's overall is a decent play if you can afford her, because she is someone with a clear path to victory who I do think has finish upside, who should be able to bank a few takedowns. But in GPP formats where you're single entering, there may be better fighters with higher ceilings here, and she isn't someone I'm necessarily forcing into all my lineups. Either way, though, she is someone who I think wins at a very, very high clip. High floor, high ceiling is someone I'm playing in cash for sure, and someone who I might get towards betting, considering I do think she has a pretty clear path to victory. Next up, 9-2 Johan Lainesse versus the 10-1 Sam Patterson. This fight has a lot of fireworks all over it, mainly because we have 2 primary finishers here who have a ton of power. Johan Lainesse, 9-2, maybe hasn't looked the best in the UFC, and maybe if you're only watching the UFC, you might think this guy maybe isn't built for the bright lights here, but he is someone with a ton of power. Dana White Contender Series, you saw it also in the regional scene. This guy does have one-shot knockout power, and although he was able to put on a stinker of a performance with a 39-point DraftKings win against Weeks, he is someone with a ton of power, and if the fight comes his way, he's able to land that fight finishing shot with some good finishing instinct as well. The big problem for Lainesse has been that ground game. He is someone who can be taken down, can be controlled. Mike Malott was able to do that in the first round. Mike Malott has since transcended, but he is still someone who that path is definitely there. Is Sam Patterson the type of guy to do that against him? We're about to find out, because he is someone who is coming up in weight. Patterson is someone who made his debut at lightweight, got knocked out early against Yanel Ashmus, and now is making the step up. He is still going to be the taller fighter of the few too, but when it comes to strength and physicality, Lainesse is going to be the stronger fighter here, and it's going to be an interesting path to see how it's taken. And it's going to be very interesting to see how they match up. Now, I pick Ashmus in that one because I do know that Patterson keeps his head up high, and for that reason, Lainesse is going to have the opportunity to land that big bomb that he's always looking for in these matchups. But when it comes down to minute winning and overall paths to victory, I do think this fight's a weird one to call, because Lainesse isn't the best minute winner. He can be outstruck on the feet, he can be taken down, and Patterson is someone who typically has the ability to go out there, keep people at the end of his strikes, have him success, and win minutes. But when it comes down to finishing ability, I think Lainesse has more finish upside, considering how he has that one-shot power that could really take off the chin of Patterson the same way Yanel Ashmus did. Patterson can be hit a lot, he keeps his hands low, he got that tall man defense, and overall, I think when I'm predicting a path to victory here, it's going to be Lainesse KO, which I see happening more often than not. But am I really wanting to play Lainesse at chalk here when he can be taken down, when he can be out-volumed, when Patterson, although coming up in weight, will be the longer fighter of the two? Not necessarily, and this is going to be more so one I target on DraftKings. On DraftKings, if you're only looking at the box score, Lainesse is going to be very popular this week, but he is someone who I do think has knockout power. At 8.4K, he could be a good GPP play, considering the way that we just saw Patterson finish. Flip side of things, I think this fight is going to be fought at a very high pace, and Patterson has the opportunity to go out there and exceed expectations. At 7.8K, I do think he has minute winning upside, potential takedown upside, and the ability to score very, very well in his own right. We have seen Lainesse knocked out before by Gabe Green, so this is another one where I do see the winner scoring very well, and one where I'm okay to take a stab at this mid-range. Official pick Lainesse, very, very close though. Don't know if I'll be playing chalk, but maybe have to go with the Canadian there, maybe a little biased. Next up, the 12-8 Jillian Robertson versus the 13-6 Polyana Viana. Another fun fight. Robertson back at 115 here. And we're getting what seems to be a grappler's delight here. One where it's going to be primarily held on the ground. And one where, because of that, I'm intrigued to see how the line moves this week. I think when we look at this fight as a whole, the dynamic is meant to be that Jillian Robertson should be able to take down Viana and control her from top position. Robertson is an amazing BJJ practitioner. She's extremely skilled, and she is going to be the hometown favorite here in this card, as I'm going to say a few times here. But I think there's a few variables that make me a bit hesitant on her. She can be outstruck in this fight, and she's going to be taking down someone in Viana who is extremely dangerous on the mat. Viana's major path to victory in a lot of these fights is that ground game, and by taking her down, Robertson is really giving her what she wants. Now, with that being said, if Robertson wants it down there as well, it's going to be a battle of wills, and one where Robertson may have the size to have some success down there, but it's always scary backing someone who's going to wrestle against someone whose major path to victory on the ground is that grappling. On the feet, though, it's tough to say because Robertson has looked a bit slow there. She hasn't really looked the best at 115, and she has been someone whose striking has never been her strong suit, and Viana has kind of really been improving that. Was able to knock out Jin Yu Frey on the feet early, was able to contend a bit with Lucindo. I think Viana has potential upside here. So when it's coming down to the betting market and you're asking me, hey, are you playing Jillian Robertson at minus 230? No, I don't think I'm going to get there. I think that this fight is a lot closer than the line entails. And although Robertson may have this path to victory and I am picking her to win, it'll be a lot closer than this line entails. Viana is always a dangerous fighter. And I do think that this is one where Robertson will have to be very, very careful in order for her to get her hand raised at the end of the night. With all that being said, with all that caution being laid out there, the pick is still Robertson. I do still think she's able to have some success from top position, maybe be a bit of a boring fight, being able to mitigate that grappling success and take it down to the mat, but one where she's able to score decent in the process. On DraftKings, though, this fight scares me. It worries me, right? I know she's going to need takedowns. I know she's going to have to go and potential to have score points that way, but I do think she's limited towards that success. It's hard for me to go out there and pick a Robertson at 9.1K when you have a Charles Jourdain at 9K, a Mike Malott at 9.3, a Jasudavicius at 9.5. I'm really struggling into Jillian Robertson at 9.1. Yes, her path to victory is there. Yes, she should be able to score decent with takedown upside, but she's facing someone who's very competent on the ground. Does she get a submission 100% of the time? Probably not. So this is one where I'm going to be a bit cautious toward Jillian Robertson. So a really tough fight for me to call. I'm kind of playing devil's advocate towards the heavily favored Canadian here. I still think she wins. I do think the line is wide though, and for that reason, not the fight I'm going to have the most interest in on DraftKings, nor the betting market. Next up, you have the 10-1 Surrey Sidey versus the 9-2 Ramon Taveras, a rematch from the Contender Series where we did have a quick stoppage there, one where Sidey did get the win, but too quick for Dana White's liking, so they're running it back here. And that quick 2-minute fight that we saw there made me realize a couple things. I did bet pretty heavy on Sidey that fight. I did think he was going to win, and my bet cashed. But what I saw early was Taveras is a very, very quick striker. I do like the hands that Taveras has. I do think he's extremely dangerous on the feet with a ton of power in that regard. And he's going to be much quicker to the punch than Sidey here. But it also showed me some negatives for Taveras, as in he wasn't able to take that much damage. And the overall read for me was Sidey was going to win this fight as the fight goes on. Early on, Taveras' hand speed and his in and out movement and his boxing is there. He is extremely quick, extremely powerful, and I do think he's able to have some success early on. The reason I picked Sidey last time is just that durability is there for Sidey. His cardio is going to be better as well, and that ground game is where he really excels. I think Sidey can compete on the feet here, keep it close, but really take over in the ground game, be able to land some takedowns in his own right, and dominate, where I do think he's the much better grappler of the two. So yeah, I was a bit scared last time, and I may not go to the well again betting Sidey because of that hand speed of Taveras and how often he wins that first round potentially. But the guy who I do think I wins down the stretch, and the guy who I do think may be a good live betting option here is Missouri Sidey, the more durable fighter, better well-rounded prospect, better cardio, with a home ground behind him. I am picking Surrey Sidey here, and I do think he has more paths to getting it done. DraftKings-wise, though, this is a fun one. I kind of want to target this one. On one side of things, we just saw Sidey go out there, get a first-round knockout, and that would have been a 100-plus score for him. I just mentioned, flip side of things, Taveras, someone with good hand speed, whose path to victory himself is likely rooted in early success. He himself might be a good option at 7.3K. But where I really think Sidey may be able to be a even better option and excel down the stretch is that grappling. I do think he has a lot more takedown upside than the line is giving him credit here for. I do think he has the ability to take down Taveras, potentially get another finish, but also fight at a very, very high pace that Taveras can't really sustain, allowing him to be a very sneaky option at 8.9K. Finish upside on the feet, takedown upside on the mat, and late finish upside with a good big score. He is one of my favorite GPP plays this week because he isn't a big name. However, I do think he's someone with finish upside. This is a fight I'm targeting from both sides. One, I'm trying to sneak in toward my GPP lineups, and I hopefully comes in a bit under-owned. Give me Surrey Sidey here. Very, very fun fight. And then next up, a fight that shouldn't be in the prelims in my eyes. 15-6-1 Charles Jourdain, 10-1-1 Sean Woodson. This fight's hilarious to me, right? Charles Jourdain, one of my favorite fighters, being Canadian, being such an entertaining fan favorite guy. I love Charles Jourdain. But it's even funnier because Sean Woodson's a guy who I also really like. For those who don't know, I moved down to the St. Louis area for school, and that's where Sean Woodson's from. So we have a Canadian, my roots where I grew up, versus a guy in St. Louis where I am now, and actually a guy who I met at Costco the very first weekend I was here in St. Louis. So I've met Sean Woodson, fun guy from St. Louis, but he's taking on a Canadian boy. It's really a clash of where I grew up and where I am now. It's going to be a very, very fun fight, but one that's also just entertaining to many different levels. Both these guys are high action strikers, very technical, very fun, high pace, and one that's going to be just a pleasure to watch. Charles Jourdain always brings the action. From Spartan kicks to quick guillotines to just insane volume, he is a guy who is a fan favorite for a reason, and he's going to be very, very fun to watch. Sean Woodson also is just this slender man type frame with a ton of range for this weight class and someone who has very, very good striking. He showed that against Dennis Bazooka in Nashville last time, and he showed an ability to mix it up not only in the wrestling as well, but have that frame, have that length, have that range, and have good cardio. Both these guys are cardio machines, and this should be a very, very fun fight for as long as it lasts. I think the guy that's going to be quicker to the punch here is going to be Charles Jourdain. With his ability to throw from all angles and potentially even mix it up with some good submission grappling, he's my winner here. But I do think his line might be a bit wide. Sean Woodson is an incredible striker. He is very, very accurate with his strikes. His nickname's a sniper for a reason, and I do think he is going to give Charles Jourdain some problems in what is going to be a very, very close striking affair. However, the reason why I think Jourdain pulls away and the reason why I think this line is about right is because that durability. Charles Jourdain is incredibly durable. He's a guy who's able to take a beat and keep on going. Classic Quebecois guy's going to fight for your money, whereas we've seen Woodson rock before. Saldana rocked him a few times. He's fought very close before, and it makes for actually a pretty fun dynamic. The technicality, the precision, the striking of Woodson versus the power, the diversity of strikes, the aggression of Charles Jourdain with home crowd behind him, it's super fun. And actually what I'm realizing is I've seen Sean Woodson fight live for all three of his last fights. I saw him fight Saldana at 278. I saw him fight Bazooka in Nashville, and now I'm seeing him fight here. Must love Sean Woodson more than I can remember, but no, this is going to be a very fun fight for that reason, but I am going to have to pick Charles Jourdain here, and I do think it's one that is going to be my most anticipated fight of the night. DraftKings-wise, though, I'm going to have to pick Jourdain here. He is someone who fights at an insane pace, will have the Canadian crowd behind him, and like I said, has more finish upside of this match of the two. He hasn't always scored great on DraftKings, but the one time we did see a round 3 knockout, 117 points, scored 91 in decision win against Ewell there. The guy is a fun, high-paced fighter and someone who I think should bring the action in a crowd-pleasing fight. So with the volume, the activity, the finish upside, give me someone like Charles Jourdain. However, on the flip side, I will also have my shares of Woodson, because in a card which doesn't have many underdogs I'm liking here, he is someone at 7.2K who I think keeps this fight close. If his chin holds up, can compete in the striking, and he's someone who's also put at 54 points and a loss before. So high activity. I do think this fight's fought at a high pace. Should be a very, very fun one to watch. Next up, our prelim headliner, this 13-2 Brad Katona versus the 9-3 Garrett Armfield. Let's dive in, because this is a fight where I do have a 3-unit bet on one of these fighters here, and it's going to be the Canadian here. Brad Katona, I do think has a recipe for success. Garrett Armfield here is a guy who is very front-loaded. He won dominantly in the first round last time out. He is someone who does have a ton of power, very good striking, very powerful striking actually in that regard, and also has the ability to mix it up on the ground as well. I like it, the little ball of energy that it comes out at early, was able to really contend with Onama in that first round on short notice that really put him on the map, and he is someone who fights at a heavy pace that if you're not able to sustain, you will fold. What he's got in front of them here is a guy in Brad Katona who is just, I think, the kryptonite for Garrett Armfield, right? Garrett Armfield likes to go out there and finish opponents. He has only one win by decision. It was against a 6-4 fighter, split decision a few years ago. He is not a decision guy. He's an early finisher. In fact, he has been finished himself in the second round a few times before. His cardio seems to slow down. He's not that same fighter he was in round 1, in rounds 2 and 3. And he's facing a guy in Katona who's never been finished, who fights at extremely high pace, who I think is intelligent enough to go out there and keep the solid pace, fight to the areas that Armfield doesn't like, and take over as the fight goes on. Katona was able to fight incredibly close to Gibson, but pull away due to his activity and precision, and training over there in SBG Ireland, he is someone with a good camp behind him, the home crowd behind him, the better cardio, level of experience, and I do just think is the overall better fighter of the two. I have 3 units of Brad Katona. I'm pretty confident on him here for a multitude of reasons, whether it be him being the better grappler in my opinion. I mean, he submitted Bryce Mitchell, went to decision with Merab Dvalishvili, has been in there with some great levels of competition, but also just a high activity striker. Landed 160 in his last fight, has really picked it up since going to Ireland there and having the ability to put together his combinations and be very active in that regard, but also be extremely durable, being in there against these really tough fighters and being able to take these shots and contend for all 15 minutes. Love his cardio, love his durability, love his pace, love his technicality. I do think he has Armfield covered in a lot of areas here, and I am confident on him in this matchup here. 8.8K, he's also someone who I think is a good GPP option. Him and Sidey right there, back-to-back, he are guys I'm getting to be a bit different. He only scored 96 in his last one against Gibson, which people might get away from, but didn't land a takedown and didn't even get a finish. I think he has takedown upside as the fight goes on in this matchup against Armfield, as well as finish upsides in round 2 or 3, where we have seen Armfield decline and slow down. Armfield can be taken down, he can gas out in that second and third round, and I do think Katona has the experience and high-level skill set to get him out of there. Give me Katona on DraftKings. Give me Katona on the money line. He is someone I'm liking this week. Flip side of things, though, to play a little bit of devil's advocate, what's the path to victory for Armfield? Well, it's fighting in this high-paced fight, maybe clipping Katona early and finishing him, which no one's done before, but that's been Armfield's style. He is someone at 7.4K whose ceiling scores very, very well on DraftKings. I just don't know how often he realizes it. But in GPP and large portfolios, I will have some Armfield just to cover my bases. Main card opens with the 19-2 Arnold Allen versus the 17-0 Movsar Evloev. Super high-level fight. We haven't seen Arnold Allen since he fought Max Holloway 5-round main event, and now he gets the undefeated Movsar Evloev, who I don't want to say disappointed last time, but fought very close against Diego Lopez, who has turned out to be an absolute killer. Evloev is just a very, very technical and persistent grappler. I mean, he averages 4.71 takedowns per 15 minutes, landed 4 against Lopez, 9 against Ige, 9 against Awodu. The guy is an extremely proactive grappler and a good one at that. He's also someone with a very good technical striking skill set. 4.57 strikes landed per minute, very active, and he knows how to win minutes. That's kind of the knack on him, though. He's a guy who has 7 wins in the UFC. 7 decisions. He fights at a high pace. He's able to win these decisions, but also hasn't been able to find that finishing touch here. And he gets someone in Allen who may be the best opponent he's fought yet, a guy who was on this huge win streak who was just derailed by someone in Max Holloway. We really get to see where these two prospects finally are. Allen is an incredible striker, high pace. He's able to land a ton of shots on Holloway that would have knocked out most people, knocked out Hook in that first round. Very, very high activity. He also has the ability to mix it up on the ground, 1.12 takedowns average per 15 minutes. Don't know if that'll happen here, but he has utilized that before. He's very well-rounded, very physical. He is a very, very good prospect. The problem I have here, though, is I don't think he has the best stylistic matchup here. We haven't really seen him against a good grappler. I mean, we haven't really seen him taken down since Mads Burnell in 2018, who took him down 6 times. Now, he was able to get a guillotine win in that spot, but he was taken out 6 times there, 6 times back when Americani. This will be the first time he faces a proactive grappler since 2018, and a very, very good one at that. Simply put, I think Arnold Allen has the ability to go out there and knock out Evloev. Lopez was able to rock him. Allen is very, very powerful. That's his path to victory, though, because I do think overall as the fight goes on, Evloev is just so relentless. Will be able to take him down, able to control him, able to stay safe, and I think has more minute winning upside here than Arnold Allen. For that reason, give me Evloev. I just think that at this point of his career, he has a better path to victory, and I do think it's one that leads for a potential good score in DraftKings. Like I said, Arnold's path to victory is going to be striking, power, landing the more powerful shots, potentially getting a knockout, and doing so is going to score fantastic at 7.5K. The flip side of things, Evloev has been a killer on DraftKings, 119 against Lopez, 129 against Ige, 130 against Woodson. At 8.7K, this is the cheapest we've seen him almost in his entire career. So we need to go out there and capitalize on him. He's going to be a very, very popular option this mid-range, and I don't blame anybody for playing him. I'll be playing some of him myself. This is a pivotal fight on DraftKings for me this week, to which I am starting with Evloev. Fun fight. Give me the undefeated Russian. Next up, the 16-6 Marc-Andre Barriault versus the 13-10 Chris Curtis. This is a tough one because I love Marc-Andre Barriault. He has that hockey player fighting mentality where he's going to go in there, he's going to try to break you. His nickname's a power bar. He's going to fight in close like he's fighting you in hockey. He's going to have one hand here and he'll be okay to feed you. He'll keep it close. Very, very durable, very good cardio, and has the ability to go out there and fight at a high pace. And he has been able to break people because of that. Broke Marquez, broke Azatar, fought really close with Anders. I mean, that cardio is his entire style. And I love watching him. I love cheering from here. But the problem is he's going to go against someone like Chris Curtis who I don't think you can break him here. And simply put is I don't think Marc-Andre Barriault's style of wearing him down is going to be able to benefit him here against Chris Curtis, who has incredible cardio. Chris Curtis is someone who is a very good counter striker, a guy who wants to keep it on the feet and has incredible takedown defense to do so, and one where I don't think neither guy are going to go to the ground here. Instead, this is going to be a battle between the far superior technical counter striker of Chris Curtis versus the volume-based war of attrition of Marc-Andre Barriault. The power of Curtis, the volume of Barriault, who really takes over, and I do think that this is Chris Curtis's fight to lose. I don't see him getting tired the same way that Barriault's opponents have, and if that's the case, Curtis is going to have the ability to land the more impactful shots, have the ability to be the more powerful guy, and really not let Barriault get off in his game. For that reason, I'm picking Chris Curtis. I'm going against Canadian here. Although I'll be cheering for Barriault, Curtis is a guy I'm looking to play, and he's my pick in this matchup. DraftKings-wise, though, I think he's sneaky because, you know what, Chris Curtis has knockout power. We have seen Marc-Andre Barriault knocked out before. I do think it's one where the knockout upside is definitely there, but if he's not able to get that KO win, not going to score great. 78 against Vieira. He would have scored 60 if he beat Gastelum in a close fight there. This is a extremely boomer bust option for Curtis, and I will be playing him due to his upside, however, but there are safer players on the slate. Flip side of things, Barriault 7.7K, if he's able to keep his chin up there, and this is a classic Barriault fight where he just swings to the finish, a ton of volume, but maybe loses that matchup, could be one of these underdogs that scores well in a loss. I mean, he scored 132 against Azatar, a fight that went to that third round. It would have been 102 if he lost there. I mean, Barriault would have scored 50 in a loss against Anders. He has a very, very high-scoring, high-pace mentality upside, and as long as he has the durability to stay in there for 15 minutes, he is someone who has the ability to put up a decent score in a loss. However, with that being said, though, I do think Curtis wins this fight, the more accurate, powerful striker of the two who has the cardio not to be broken by Barriault. Fun fight, though. And then with the Canadian superstar on the card here, Mike Malott, 10-1-1, 28-11, Neil Magny. Super fun fight. Malott is the hottest prospect out of Canada right now. I'll be cheering him for him. His brother's out here playing hockey with some of the friends I know, too. So, extra reason to cheer for Malott. I love the guy, and main reason why is 10 fights, 10 finishes. Extremely proactive finisher, fun to watch, and extremely talented in that own right. A bit of an older prospect, but someone who has done it the right way. I mean, he's winning over crowds, he's winning over hearts with his high action skill set, and someone who I love to cheer for that reason. As he always says, by strike or by strangle. Incredible striker, very, very technical with that, but also he is the jiu-jitsu coach at American Top Team. At American Top Team, a very, very good jiu-jitsu practitioner, and he's been able to get some submission wins because of it. Lainesse and Fugit in his last two, which he was able to submit beautifully. Even though he got off to a bit of a slower start against Adam Fugit there, showed that he was patient, rocked Fugit with some incredible combinations there and finished it up with a mounted guillotine. Super, super technical. Faces the gatekeeper of the division, Neil Magny, a guy who has just always been around. A ton of wins. It's going to be a very, very tough task, and one who's going to be a very tall test for Mike Malott to see if he's at the right level. The problem with Neil Magny is he hasn't really been looking the best recently. Was leg kicked to oblivion by Ian Gary. Fought very, very close against a guy in Phil Rowe who I thought he should have more success against, and was then submitted by Burns previously. 2023 wasn't really the year for Neil Magny, and now he's going into Canada to face the highly touted Canadian prospect, Mike Malott. I think this is an extremely tall task for Malott. It's a big step up after being just rocked by Mickey Gall a couple years ago. I think this is a big step up. But when it comes down to narratives and to where they're in their career, this is Mike Malott's fight to lose. He was given someone who has not been looking the best in his hometown, in the home crowd, Toronto, Ontario. He is set up for success. He has the ability to go out there and be the better, more powerful striker of the two, as well as have the ability to go out there and submit him, where Neil Magny has been submitted a few times before. When it comes down to the grappling, Mike Malott is the far superior grappler. Additionally, I think Malott's a very smart guy. He's doing his research. Magny hasn't been able to deal with the leg kicks. He hasn't been able to deal with the pressure. And when he's put in the back foot, he doesn't have the same success. And I think Malott can take advantage of that. So in this pick here, give me Mike Malott. I do think he's able to go out there and get another finish. And I do think this is a fight where he's set up for success. However, would I be surprised if Magny was able to put on a vet lesson, push Mike Malott against the cage, tire him out, really test out that resiliency? Not really. And I'm really interested to see how this fight plays out. I'll be cheering my heart out for Malott. I do think he wins this fight a lot of the time. However, I don't know if he's necessarily at that spot where I want to smash play him. You know, we haven't seen his cardio tested. This is a big step up in level of competition. Although I think he wins and he's at a better spot in his career, there's still some things I want to learn about him here. DraftKings-wise, though, he's going to be my favorite play of the slate, as everybody else probably say. Probably one of the chalkiest fighters on the slate, aside from the main event. 3 fights, 111, 103, 105. Averages 107 in these wins. Has finish upside here. Is a guy with 100% finish rate. 9.3K. He is the GBP play, and I do think it'll be very popular for very good reason. I'll have some Mike Malott for sure. Let's just hope he can keep that crowd going, make Canada proud, and I'll be cheering super hard for him for sure. Next up, you have the 15-8 Raquel Pennington for the belt against the 10-2-1 Mayra Bueno Silva. 5 rounds, 135 belt. Bye-bye Nunes. New wave. Who's going to go out here and succeed? Well, it's an interesting one to say the least. You have the 35-year-old Raquel Pennington getting her shot here. Has won 5 in a row, so I mean, she deserves it. All power to her. She has been on a bit of a roll, and she's facing someone who has also been on a bit of a roll, but in a different way. But Pennington's been able to utilize that range, utilize some good striking defense, and beat some pretty good competition in this division. I mean, Vieira, Ladd, Chiesson, Kinzad in her last 4. That's a pretty good look for Rocky here, and I'm happy to see her get this shot at the belt. She's facing someone, though, who has got here in a bit different way. I mean, Bueno Silva, instead of going out there and getting decisions, she's 4 wins in a row, and her last 3 wins have all been by submission. Holm, Landsberg, Egger, all by submission. Has fought a bit weaker level of competition, but has disposed of them accordingly. She is a very, very dangerous fighter. And I think in a 3-rounder, I would go out here and I would be lining Bueno Silva pretty high. Because I think she's the more active striker of the two, has the ground game upside, is the more dangerous finisher, and has the durability to go out there and really compete. However, the big question for us this week is this 5-round main event. How should we be able to fare in 5 rounds? Her cardio has necessarily never really been tested. We've never really been able to see her, how she fares here. And I'm excited to see really what transpires. I mean, the metrics really point towards Bueno Silva. More dangerous fighter, more knockouts, more submissions, better activity, landing more strikes per minute, better striking accuracy, better takedown accuracy. She seems to be the better offensive fighter of the two. She does absorb a lot more strikes. I mean, Pennington has a 62% striking defense, so good on her, whereas, Bueno Silva absorbs 4.71 strikes per minute. Makes it for a very interesting matchup. But I think when we take a step back and look at how this fight plays out, it's really let's say the minute winner or someone in Pennington who's going to pitter-patter from the outside, look to win minutes for 25 minutes, look to secure rounds, versus the finish upside of Bueno Silva. I mean, going out there, snatching the neck of Holm like that, taking down and submitting someone like Landsberg, finding that armbar against Egger. She is someone who's extremely dangerous on the mat, who also throws with fight any intention on the feet, and she has more finish upside. We can ask the questions about the USADA suspension with no USADA, how does Bueno Silva look? We could do all those things. But really the question is going to become, is she able to win minutes or find the fight-ending blow here? Because if not, it'll be a very, very close fight. I, however, side on the Bueno Silva side here. I think she has more finish upside, and I think she has the danger factor, the forward pressure control factor to go out there and win this matchup. And I do think she is the more dangerous fighter of the two to go out there and have success. I like her submission upside. I think she'll fare well in the clinch and ground exchanges, as well as, although not having the best striking defense, is an offensive-oriented fighter who will look to find the finishing blow against a 35-year-old Raquel Pennington. I mean, if we look at Pennington's last few opponents, this is the most dangerous girl she's fought yet. It's hard to compare her last wins to someone with this level of finish upside. So for that case, give me Bueno Silva. I do think she has the metrics to go out there and what should be a very, very close fight and have more finish upside, be the more dangerous fighter of the two. Minute winning wise, would I be surprised if Pennington won a boring 25-minute decision as Bueno Silva gassed in rounds 4 and 5? Not really. Wouldn't be the best thing to watch in person, but it's a potential, but it's a possibility. But I do think Bueno Silva should be the favorite here, and she is someone who actually I do have a wager on. DraftKings-wise, I actually kind of like this fight more than I should. Like I said, Bueno Silva finished upside. She's someone who scored 80, 107, 91 in her last 3 wins in a 5-rounder, has the potential to go out there and score well. Whereas this one in Pennington, who, if you think about it, with 25 minutes to work, with her activity of 4 strikes landed per minute and her ability to have her path to victory be a volume-based decision, she could score well. In her 3-round win, she scored 70, 83, 93, not the best scores, 94 against Renault. But if you add a couple more rounds, that could be 110 points, that could be 115, 120. That could be a very, very viable score for a 7.6 underdog. And actually, if you look at it, I do think she has more chance to win than, say, a Barriault or an Armfield or an Allen even. So she is someone to be looking to get to, and she is someone who I might be playing on this slate. However, at the end of the day, more finish upside. The fighter picking to win here is Bueno Silva. I'm just hoping for a very, very fun matchup and seeing a new change of the guard here at 135. And last but not least, the moment we've all been waiting for. 28-5 Sean Strickland versus the 22 Dricus du Plessis. Oh, what a matchup here. You have all this beef happening in the crowd, them scrapping. Strickland looks actually upset, but I mean, we have a 185 bout that doesn't include Adesanya, that doesn't include Whitaker, that doesn't even include Silva. I mean, this is a true interesting matchup, one that we probably wouldn't expect to be having. If you told me that we were going to have Sean Strickland versus Dricus du Plessis for the belt 2 years ago, when du Plessis was almost losing to Trevin Giles and Strickland was being knocked out by Pereira, I'd call you crazy. But here we are, and this is one of my most highly anticipated matchups. It's going to be so fun. It is going to be an absolute bloodbath, but it's a true clash of styles. I will be the first to admit I've gotten Dricus wrong plenty of times. I can't get this guy right. Bet on Whitaker against him, that hurt. I have backed him in the past, but I truly think that du Plessis has holes in his game. I mean, he is a brute. He's powerful. He gets these finish wins, but not the best minute winner. Can be taken down, can be controlled from opposition, can be outstruck and outvolumed, and his cardio seems to have waned as well. Strickland, also a guy who has just been so inconsistent. He is going to walk you down, and he's going to go out there and he is going to press a pace and he's going to be a good striker, but we haven't seen his ground game tested. His chin has been cracked a few times. This seems like a complete clash of styles. You have a guy in Plessis who is power only, fades down the stretch, versus a guy in Strickland who is cardio only, succeeds down the stretch, but can be knocked out early. It seems like a true recipe of Plessis early, Strickland late. Who prevails? I do think this is a true 50-50 fight. I do think it's one where you may look for a live entry on Strickland, but I do have to back here the current champion, Strickland. I think that he's motivated to go out there and have some success, and I do think that he has an ability to stay safe and win as the fight goes on. Plessis is going to be ever dangerous in rounds 1 and 2. He has a ton of power. There's no denying it. He could knock out Sean Strickland, and I'm not saying he won't. But more often than not, I think Strickland's able to stay safe, parry his shots, and walk him down. And when it comes down to facing adversity, Plessis hasn't really faced adversity, and I think this is going to be the first time he does. It's just really weird for me to see him being a plus 300 underdog to Whitaker, to almost favored against Strickland here, a guy who has known cardio and known 5-round winning ability. So give me Strickland. I think it's really, really close. I think, like I said, maybe a live entry on Strickland betting-wise. Plessis early, Strickland late. Either way, extremely fun fight. I think it's going to be a war. I think the crowd's going to be buzzing. I'm excited for it. I am pumped. DraftKings-wise, pivotal fight. They're in the middle of the price range. 8.2 for Strickland, 8K for Plessis. Pick your side. Pick your side. You're going to want to have this fight. It just depends what side. Plessis may be the better option because his path to victory scores well. I mean, he averages 109 in his wins. 113 against Whitaker, 118 against Brunson, 125 against Till. Those are some great scores. I think if he does win, it's going to come early. And it's going to score very well. Strickland, on the flip side of things, is a guy who is pressure-based on the stretch. 95 against Adesanya, I think he'll probably get a finish if it gets that long. 112 against Magomedov, 117 against Mavov. The winner of this fight is going to be the optimal lineup, in my opinion. It just depends who you think wins. So I personally will have it split close down the middle. Probably a bit more Strickland because that's what I'm picking to win, but I'm hyped. I'm ready for it. Should be a very, very fun matchup. But that's going to do it for me here on the Plays and Fades YouTube channel. Let me quickly run you through my quick picks. I'm taking Sean Strickland, Bueno, Silva, Mike Malott, Chris Curtis, Moslar Evloev, Brad Katona, Charles Jourdain, Serhi Sidey, Julian Robertson, Johan Lainesse, Jasudavicius, and Malcolm Gordon. DraftKings-wise, up top, I love Malott. I love Jourdain. And then I really am a fan of this whole 8.9 kid, 8.7. Evloev, Katona, Sidey. I'm there for sure. Most pivotal fight in the card, Strickland, Plessis, you're going to have some ownership of that, and it comes down to underdogs. I think Barriault and Pennington could be good underdogs in losses potentially if they go the whole round, whereas more upside for wins and high upside is going to be Woodson, Taveras, and Patterson. Reignmakers-wise, highest ceilings, Jasudavicius, Malott, Jourdain, Sidey, Katona, Evloev. Ooh, that's too many. 6. Let's go Jasudavicius, Malott, Sidey, Katona, Evloev, winner of the main event, because you got to have that main event. Betting-wise, I have 3 bets locked in so far. 1 unit Malcolm Gordon, 2 unit Bueno Silva, 3 unit Brad Katona. 1, 2, 3. Nice. I'll add some more. Probably end up playing some violence in certain spots. Probably in the Jasmine slot because I do think she gets a finish against Cachoeira. But be sure to check me out on Twitter at GamblesGuru to be sure to see when my bets are posted. If you have any questions, make sure to put them in the comment section down below. Hit the like while you're down there already and subscribe to the channel. Show some love. I appreciate everybody. If you're at the fights this weekend, be sure to come say hello. I'm looking forward to watching them and seeing some Canadians have some success. So with that, guys, enjoy the card. Best of luck in all your betting and DraftKings endeavors, and let's make some money, guys.